Welcome back. It's Beyond the Box Score. I'm Dan Schneier. That's Jacob Gibbs. And we are bringing to you today's show, which will be talking rest of season rankings, some trade targets, a little bit of a different schedule this week. Jacob had a little bit of an OKC trip. And by OKC, I mean Oklahoma City, to go watch what I hope was Steph Curry play basketball with his brother. Because I'm not in NBA mode at all and probably won't be until the playoffs, have no idea if Steph Curry played and if he did good or not, or if you even got to watch him play. So tell us a little bit about that trip. Did you get to see Steph Curry play basketball?
I did, and it was one of the worst performances in Steph Curry's career.
Statistically speaking, or just
Truly.
your observation?
Statistically speaking, I haven't had the time. I've literally been driving for like 10 out of the past 26 hours or something. But I'm going to dig in just to like contextualize it because, of course, have to go beyond the box score here. I think he scored 11 points. He almost fouled out. He played 20 minutes. And right from the beginning, he's getting like face guarded, full on denied everywhere. The Oklahoma City defense is insane. And just like all these young guys. And you can tell that Steph's just like, man, I'm too old for this crap. Like, I don't want to deal with this. And truly, like, from after the first 5 minutes of the game, not any of his shots even felt close. It was just like desperate chucking. And like the Warriors are at this point so depleted that they're like, we need you to do it. Like, that's the only way we have a chance against these teams. And yeah, so that was very funny. It was the first time that, if you guys missed yesterday's show, it was the first time that my brother ever got to see Steph Curry. We drove 5 hours to go see him. It was fun. It was a fun road trip and everything. I'm glad to be back, but I am tired. I've had way too much caffeine today. So this should be a fun show. I'm pretty excited for it.
Yeah, it should be a great show. I'm excited to talk about these players, and I am excited to hear a little bit about after the show, at least. I want to know, during a long road trip drive, Jacob, are you playing podcasts or are you playing music?
Yeah, I did get to catch up on some podcasts, listen to some podcasts that I wouldn't normally get to, like we got to listen to some Stealing Bananas. Shout out our boy, Ben Gretsch. Listen to some music.
That took up like 90% of your drive, right?
What's that?
Stealing Banana shows are like 3 hours long.
Talked through a bunch of dynasty trade ideas. We're right at the trade deadline right now. Me and my brother do dynasty teams together. So that was fun. We've got like 16 dynasty teams that we co-manage together. Yeah, it was a good drive.
I love it. All right. Where are we starting today's show, Jacob?
So we're going to do rest of season rankings. Going to go through every position and give you guys my most recent update on rest of season ranks, talk through some of these players and like give you some of our favorite trade targets as well. And also if you have any thoughts on Justin Jefferson, I feel like people keep asking on that. We did share that on the Monday show. I've got, him in an interesting range for rest of season. So we'll talk about that for sure. I saw that in the chat before we even jumped on today, which, by the way, shout out to the chat. Good to be back live here after yesterday's show. If you didn't see yesterday's show because you're used to going to the live column on our YouTube channel, it's there in the Beyond the Box Score podcast feed. And then the other thing I've got is we're going to do some listener questions today. So we've got some fun stuff at the end of the show to get into. But
I want to say, go ahead.
I was just going to dive right in. So if you got something, let's go.
I was just going to say two things. One, I want to hear from the comment section. And thank you so much, by the way. I haven't done it in a while. It's time to do an early plug. The early plug is please hit the like button right now. If you're watching, we got to get likes, man. Like, ladies and gentlemen, we need you to like this show. So click the like button, hover your hand over the mouse, whatever you got to do, click like now. And then please leave comments. And speaking of comments, I want to hear from you guys in the comments, you guys and girls in the comments. And by that, I mean everybody. Who is your favorite trade target? Give us a name. Let us know why. Tell us who you are trading for right now. Because at some point in the show, Jacob, it might be time to talk about our boy who may have a really good opportunity, and that boy is RJ Harvey.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about these next couple of weeks for him to establish himself potentially as what we hoped he would be.
Get some rhythm, right? Like I'm so sick of him having like just like this one play, and then you have to wait for 30 minutes before your next touch, and it's like, how can he ever find his rhythm? Yeah, we're in a really interesting spot right now in the season. People are asking about AJ Brown too, and it's like some of these players, like, who knows how it's going to go. It doesn't look good for AJ Brown as the general place that it feels like we've arrived. It was at least good to see Lane Johnson back, but yeah, I mean, so many of these players, it's tough sorting through them, and you'll see that as we get into the rest of season rankings. But before we do the positional rest of season rankings, I want to outline 5 Trade targets for you guys, just
Okay.
to sit out the most to us. It's 4 receivers and 1 running back, which I think is pretty on brand on brand here for this podcast. But I really like these receivers, and we will talk about all the positions. So the first one for me is Luther Burden, man. We've talked about him. I think you and I, we did the rookies a couple weeks ago, and we were like, who might be the late season rookie league winners this year? And we couldn't decide on our 5th one. And I went with Luther and you went with Tez Johnson. I feel like they're both looking really good, honestly. It's going to probably depend on injury news with DJ Moore, but Luther Burden has looked really, really good. We did add this on yesterday's show, but I'm just going to throw it up here again real quick. For anybody watching on YouTube, boom, Luther Burden tweet, 2.74 yards per route run, just above Rashee Rice, Drake London, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's been really, really good. The film is really good. You got to dig into some Bears film, and you really liked what you saw. And I feel like that's what it's been all year. Like, the question coming in for Luther Burden was like, is he just a slot-bound guy? Is he going to be limited in that way like we've seen with Josh Downs, Jaden Reed, some of those players? Or can he be more than that? I feel like the draft capital that they invested in him suggested that they hope that he can be more than that. And that's what we've seen so far. People are like, why isn't he playing ahead of Olomide Zaccheaus, who's either struggled with the drops and just hasn't been that good all year? I think it's because they have a bigger vision for him where he's like more than just the slot-bound guy. So they want to test them out with these perimeter routes. And he's done really well there. And I think also like they want Loveland to be somebody who can be on the field in the slot too.
Right.
And so, yeah, it might depend on the health of DJ Moore, but we know he can play in and out of the slot now. We have some confirmation of him being able to find success on the perimeter as a pro, which is really exciting. And then this offense, we talked about it on yesterday's show, like they're getting explosive plays. They're finding a lot of success in the run game. So really it comes down to, can they find success in the pass game to elevate them to like an elite status? We're going to see. They've got some real tests here down the stretch. And I'm excited to see if Caleb Williams has the answers to the test. You and I are, for the first time in Caleb's career, like actually kind of cautiously optimistic, I feel like.
Yes.
Some of the sack avoidance and stuff, like he's still got a ways to go, and we'll see how these next few games go. But I think there's a lot of reason for optimism for Luther, and I think that he's still really, really cheap right now.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
All right, trade target number 2. Another player who I think is really cheap, and this is somebody who we haven't talked about really all year. I'm really curious where your head's at on this. It's Stefon Diggs. Do you have any thoughts on Diggs? We've talked about the Patriots schedule and how it looks good for the running backs. With Diggs specifically, they've got 2 games out of their week 14 bye that look like they could be shootouts. And I wonder if so they've kept him in a limited role all year, but his like per route data looks really good.
Right.
I wonder if we maybe see the role expanded after the week 14 bye as they gear up for the playoffs. Do you have any thoughts on Diggs?
I never want to count on a role expansion in a Josh McDaniels offense.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea of, one, how he's looked on film. I feel like he's been really sharp getting out of his guts. Has turned into like an option and maybe even the preferred option in the red zone. And that could be expanded. So those are all pluses and enough probably for me to look at him as somebody who is a valuable trade for target. The only thing I do notice, like as I'm looking through my leagues, Jacob, like matchups, what's coming up, I see a lot of my league members who have Diggs. I wasn't lucky enough to get him in any leagues, or I guess fortunate enough, we'll see. Starting him over some really big name receivers. I think those who have waited on Diggs and drafted Diggs are maybe not in position to be wanting to trade him right now.
Yeah, maybe. I just feel like because he's been pretty good for fantasy, but he hasn't been delivering a ton of like huge games for fantasy.
Yeah.
I have him at wide receiver 21, which is 5 spots ahead of consensus. So I do feel like there's some opportunity to potentially buy him at a bit of a discount. And like he had a couple big games early in the year, but recently it's been 46 yards, 38 yards, 14 yards, 69 yards, 28 yards. And I just wonder if it feels a little underwhelming, even though the touchdowns have been there lately, you know?
True.
And maybe somebody feels like, okay, this, like I've been thinking maybe he would turn into this wide receiver 1 for Drake May, but it's not really amounting to anything big. Kayshon Bouttie's played well. There's other pieces there. The rookie is starting to play well. Like maybe I'm just kind of getting out on Diggs, you know, as a wide receiver 3. When I think he could. Wide receiver 21 is basically low end wide receiver 2, and I think that's what the potential is for him. Week 15 is against Buffalo. Week 6, which he had 146 yards against them earlier this year. Week 16 is against the Ravens, and then he gets the Jets in week 17. So it's like a lot of favorable matchups, and then those 2 15 and 16 potential shootouts in the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think like it's totally possible he could be like even a wide receiver 1 for that stretch, you know?
The only concern I would have on the 17, and this is too far looking ahead and probably not important, but I do want to note, if the two North and the West division stay grindy, it will probably just be between the Patriots and Colts for that 1 seed. And will they have to play their starters in that game? Like, we'll see on that front with the Patriots. They have a really easy schedule down the stretch.
Yeah, maybe week 17. I mean, I don't often look ahead to that one as one where starters might sit, but it could happen in this case.
Maybe too early. Maybe I'm a little too early on that.
Especially against the Jets. But to me, like, I don't think you have to invest much into Diggs, you know? Like,
right.
And if he gets you to week 17, at that point, it's not the end of the world to me if he doesn't have a huge week 17.
Like, here's a good example. Would you be down for this? Gung Ho Joe says, I traded Sutton for Diggs. Is that something you can get on board with?
Yeah. I have Diggs 2 spots ahead of Cortland Sutton. I've got him ahead of Tedero McMillan at this point. That's basically where I'm at. I think, you know, Sutton, if Denver's offense kind of reorients itself like back to where it was last year, I think that he could be worth more than Diggs for sure. But I do think it lines up really well for Diggs to close the season out strong and maybe be a guy who can like get you to that fantasy championship spot. And I want to go from Diggs to Jaylen Warren here because I think they're similar players where it's like you're not investing in them as like a huge piece, but they might produce like a running back 1, a top 12 running back or a top 12 receiver to like get you. I think that extra, 20% boost from the bottom of your roster here that's like getting you past a big opponent and into the championship. And to me, that's really all you can ask for is like try to get a chance to play for the pot at the end. So Jaylen Warren's schedule is freaking beautiful, man. It's going to be dependent on the Steelers to like play well. And I'm a little nervous about their offense. But the defense looks like it's playing a little bit better lately, maybe kind of getting things figured out on that end. So they've got the Bengals and then they're on the road against Chicago. And then they have Buffalo, and then they're on the road against the Ravens. That game makes me a little bit nervous.
But the other 3 are nice looking.
And then they've got the Dolphins. So I just feel like over the next like 5 or so weeks, things set up really, really well for Jaylen Warren. Week 16 and 17 aren't great. They go on the road to Detroit and then on the road against Cleveland. We'll see where Cleveland's defense is at that point. But I wanted to bring Warren up. We'll get into rest of season rankings for the running backs right after our first break here. And you'll see where I've got him. The last 2 names, the 5 big trade targets here I wanted to lead with. This is going to surprise nobody. We've talked about him over and over and over, but just doing a revisit because it's been, a week since we've seen him in action and the offense hasn't been quite as good lately. So like coming off the week 6 game where George Pickens gave us 168 yards, since then has been 82, 78, 79. Look at steady Eddie George Pickens. Who would have ever guessed? And yeah, I feel like maybe he's kind of back of mind for people a little bit. Maybe people feel like he's like faded a little bit with his role because CeeDee Lamb's back. And that's kind of true, but really the role is still pretty good. And I like him in a few potential shootouts here down the stretch. They've got the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Lions, the Vikings, the Chargers, and the Commanders to close things out. So it's not perfect, but there are several games that could be shootouts. Week 17 is on the road against Washington. The 2 games before that are at home. So hopefully like mostly good weather during that stretch.
Right.
To me, I've got Pickens right here at wide receiver 11, which is ahead of Justin Jefferson, for example. And I don't think most people are going to see it that way. Just 1 spot behind Jaylen Waddle, who is the next big trade target here. And I know like Waddle, it's going to feel like buying high. But I feel so good about the schedule. We outlined it on yesterday's show. He's got Washington this week and then the bye. And then the Saints, the Jets, the Steelers, the Bengals, and then the potential shootout against the Bucks in week 17. And the most important thing to me, man, is that they got this freaking win against Buffalo, and that keeps our hopes alive for this thing not completely like derailing. I was pretty nervous that like week 12 might be like the time that we see the team move on from Tua or McDaniel or whatever the case may be. But if they get a big win against Washington here, I feel like there's a good chance that they just close this thing out with what they've got. And what they've got is Jaylen Waddle playing at an extremely high level. We talked about it on yesterday's show. So I feel really good about that one. And I think the upside is even higher than this wide receiver 10 spot where I have him. Like recently, he's been producing as well or better than a lot of these guys who are above him, including like Ibuka, Devontae Adams,
Yes.
even CeeDee Lamb. Like I think he could produce like that kind of a player, and he's actually gettable. It's actually attainable that you could trade for him. Whereas like you're not trading for Drake London at this point.
Yeah.
You're probably not able to trade for Emeka Egbuka at this point.
Yes.
I think that you could potentially get Pickens or Waddle, and they're two guys who give you that kind of upside.
Yeah, I love it. We made this list, and of the list, this was my favorite player to trade for. And we talked about it a lot in last week's episode. And I think a really key point is keeping Mike McDaniel in the mix and keeping Tua in the mix. I do think Tua's rapport, Tua is not the best quarterback in the NFL, but his rapport with Waddle is key, especially on those downfield shots. If they at any point said, look, we'll turn to you or see what we have for the future there. Maybe we have a QB2. That's devastating for Waddle. So I think this is a clear sign they won't be doing that as long as they can stay competitive in games like this. Also, I mean, they're so financially committed to Tua. It's tough to even really ever move on from him this year. So he's definitely someone in the mix for me as well.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I love these trade targets we've got outlined here. And then I think as we get into the rest of season rankings here, y'all will find other potential like value spots that you can jump on.
Yep. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we're going to get right back into rest season rankings.
This is European soccer's biggest stage.
Written in the stars! What a difference she has made!
The question is, can you handle it? The crowd here feels electric. Stream every match of the UEFA Women's Champions League on Paramount+.
Cool. All right. Let's talk rest of season rankings. Dive into it. And we're going to find some trade targets throughout.
Yeah. All right. I'm pulling up my rankings here. We're going to start at running back. And it is, like I said, a really tough time trying to navigate these. Like J.K. Dobbins, the most recent thing I've heard is like that he could hit the IR.
Yes.
We still don't really know where Bucky Irving's at with his health. Like,
sort of practicing, seems
right,
like sort of not.
Right.
Ramondre was ruled out for this week, by the way, when we started recording. Ramondre Stevenson is out.
Yeah. Okay, so you're going to see my rankings on the screen here. On the right side, this ECR is expert consensus rankings per the Fantasy Points data suite. I'm so tired. Per Fantasy Pros. And then this verse ECR is like how much higher I am or lower I am than these running backs. And so we've talked through this like top 12 a lot.
Sure.
Do you have any thoughts on Kyren Williams and Blake Corum? I've got Kyren at running back 11 here, which is right in line with consensus. And I have Corum at 37, which is much higher than consensus. Lately, they've kind of gone like drive by drive. And I know you've really liked what you've seen from Corum this year. I saw a stat that he had the highest percentage of his runs that gained 10 or more yards of qualified backs this year. I feel like he's looked great on film. Do you think that Kyron's overvalued, or are you fine with where he's at here? Like above Dowdle, above Chase Brown?
It's an interesting situation because Corum's looks so good on tape, but I think that McVay trusts Kyren to be in the role that he's in. And as far as like, is he ranked too high? No, not for me, because I have so much faith in this offense. I'm getting a back who's a consistent red zone option, one of the best and most consistent offenses in the NFL. So it's fine for me. Right.
Yeah. I don't think he's losing significant work necessarily. Like he's still getting 15 to 20-ish touches. The schedule is not great. They've still got to play Seattle twice. Atlanta could be a tough matchup. Tampa Bay has been really hard to run on.
Right. I think for me, like when it comes to like that, it's funny with a player like Kyren, Jacob. It's like Tampa Bay's been hard to run on. We don't like the matchup. Sure, yes, but like I don't even feel like I get my points from Kyren from like good running matchups. Like he's not really an efficient runner. It's just this is an offense. He's in the red zone. He scores touchdowns in this offense, and he gets receptions. And they design receiving plays that are good options in the red zone that lead to some receiving touchdowns as well. It's like all just touchdown based with Kyren for me.
Yeah, that's fair. So I've got Kyren at 11, Rico Dowdle at 12. I did like a deep dive on Rico Dowdle last week. You can find, if you like search that on FFT on the YouTube channel, you can find they even clipped, I think it's like 15-minute video going through all the Rico Dowdle stuff and comparing him historically. It's obviously unprecedented to have this guy come out of nowhere and be like such a freaking alpha like he has been, but as long as his body holds up, like this seems like it's just going to keep happening where he's just truly, it's like, I'm the captain now kind of thing. And he just like came in and took the job, and this is how their offense is working.
Right.
it's truly like bully
Well,
ball.
working, quote unquote. They scored 7 points against the Saints, but yes.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's like all they can afford to do. This is their pass protection is at such a dire level, and Bryce is not playing well behind bad pass protection. So this is what they have to do.
This is the closest it's going to come to working for them, it seems like, this year. So I've got Bucky Irving next. I think there's like so much upside for him.
Yes.
If you can afford to take the risk and wait, then I think he's one of the best trade targets at any position, but we just don't know. They're saying like he's got to be able to take a hit, basically, is where they've landed on the shoulder injury. So we'll see.
I'll say this, though, on that front, like what has me excited and enthusiastic about Bucky rest of season is what they're telling us. And they're telling us it's not the foot anymore. It's just the shoulder. And I know that sounds crazy for me to say, like that gets me into like the foot. Whenever it's lower body stuff, foot, ankle, knee, that scares me a lot more than shoulder. Seems like it might be a pain tolerance issue for Bucky.
Yeah. And the schedule sets up nice. Like we've talked about the Bucks several times as like being one of our favorite teams to target in trades. As the offensive line gets healthier, they've got a lot of good matchups here down the stretch. So Bucky is definitely intriguing. They kind of have shifted away from Rachaad White a little bit, which I think is interesting. It makes me almost feel better about Bucky's return that they might it might just be focused on him. I thought there was potential that White had played well enough that he had like worked his way into a bigger role.
Wow, that I'm actually a little scared on the opposite front. I feel like Tucker's played well enough that he's potentially worked his way into a role.
Maybe. They've always known what they have in Sean Tucker. You know, he's always played well when given an opportunity, and they've ranted and raved about him for years. They've always loved Sean Tucker. It's but like when Bucky's been healthy, it's been all Bucky. To me, it's like if he loses the passing down work like he did at the beginning of last year, that would scare me a little bit.
I'm a little more scared than you are in general on Bucky, not necessarily with the injury, just with the sense of like Tucker's worked his way. And I know I agree with you. They've had Tucker for a while, but I just feel he's going to have some role when Bucky gets back. And then it's like, all right, well, if Tucker has some role, we can't do this to Rachaad. We got to give him at least something. And then is it like, all right, well, we'll give Rachaad our passing down role, because that's a little scary if they have to give Rachaad something and it turns into that.
Yeah. Chase Brown is one of the highest upside moves you can make at running back. The schedule sets up really nice for him.
Burrow's back soon.
Yeah, like whatever happens there, whichever Joe's in, like it looks good at quarterback. I will say this Baltimore matchup that they've got twice looked like a green matchup, but they're definitely playing better lately.
Yes, that's no longer a green.
As I'm looking at this, it's like not quite as favorable as I would have imagined like 3 weeks ago, but there are still several spots that look pretty good, and a lot of these games could be high scoring.
And the Bengals defense stinks. So, yeah, a lot of games will be. And we may have injuries at running back that propel Chase Brown back to the role he had last year when he was breakout for us end of season, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, the last we saw Chase Brown, he had 14 targets and played the whole game. We'll see. Pirine got injured on a hip drop tackle. They haven't like put him on the IR or anything, I don't think.
No.
We'll see what it's like coming out of the bye. Maybe Taj Brooks steps into that role, or maybe it's just like all Chase Brown. We've seen this team be willing to trust him in that way. So, yeah, massive upside with him if you want to roll the dice there. This is a weird range. I don't know what the heck to do with these guys. Let me know. Do you think any of these guys should be higher? And like, where would you put them ahead of Warren? What do you think? It's Breece Hall, Quinshon Judkins, and Ashton Genty.
Okay, so I'll start by saying this. I really like how you have this ranking set up. I would have all three of these guys after the players. The one I would have the highest of these three is Breece, because I think Breece has the most explosive play upside, like we saw last game. Like he's not having that great of a game, from a fantasy standpoint. And then boom, they hit him on a passing play and it's 40 plus yards and a score. That's 11 points for your fantasy team. Like, where are the explosive plays for Genty? I know he's capable of them. I don't know if he's capable of them in this offense behind this offensive line. And then who was the other back there? Was another one of these like bad situation backs. Oh, Judkins. You know where I stand on Judkins.
Yeah.
I'm not high on Judkins.
Here's the schedule for Genty. He's got Dallas this week, and then Cleveland, and then at LA against the Chargers, and then Denver, at Philly, at Houston. That's tough, man.
That's really bad. And I'd love to look at schedule because I might be willing to move him third of these backs, especially because I felt like from watching that Island game, Jacob, and you can disagree or tell me if you disagree with this, that offense was actually starting to generate a little bit for him in the run game. And then immediately when Ben Powers Johnson got injured, it was like nightmare for them. It was over.
Yeah.
It was like he was their only decent lineman left, and now he's on the IR too. So like we're talking about no Ben Powers Johnson, no Colton Miller. Like this is turning into the worst offensive line by far in the NFL.
Yeah, I was watching that with a buddy who doesn't really watch football that much, and I was like, "This is going to be the worst game that you've ever seen." Just the heads up. And then it was, and we were like
so
laughing at it all along the way. And then when he got hurt, I was like, "That's the only offensive lineman whose name I know." Like this is not looking good. Oh gosh. If you survive with Ashton Jeanty through this stretch right here, you get the Giants in Week 17.
Yes,
so maybe.
And I still feel like look at that. He scored touchdowns last 2 weeks. Like if he's still like one of the best options for scoring each week somehow, some way.
You can't say that he's one of the best options for
Okay, that's
scoring
ridiculous.
on the Raiders.
No.
No
On
way.
this lower tier, like if you ask me, Jeanty, Judkins, Brees, who do I think is most likely to score the most touchdowns the rest of the season? I'm still taking Jeanty of those three.
That's fair, I suppose. Those are the worst offenses of all time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's fair, I guess. I mean, I'll take Geno over those two at QB all day.
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy. These Cleveland Jets. Oh
I'm
my
so
gosh.
disgusted with Cleveland, their offense.
So funny that those two faced off last week. Like truly two of the worst offenses.
And
that
they
we've-
scored like all their points from special teams. No, Gabriel had 2 passing touchdowns, but like didn't look good at all besides those. And even those are like whatever. One was like a bootleg that he just like had Judy.
Don't get started on Gabriel, dude.
I can't. I don't want to have another Gabriel rant. I hate watching Gabriel play football.
All right, beyond Ashton Jeanty, you'll find Travis Etienne, DeAndre Swift have pushed up into this range with like Amari and Hampton and some of these rookies that we don't really know what to do.
This will be my first one. Not to say there's that much great behind it, but this will be the first one I drop. Like Hampton for me, I'm not confident in at all. Coming back off the injury for starters. I don't like that he's going to be playing off the injury. It was a pretty serious injury. I don't know if we'll be as explosive as we saw toward the end. Second, no Joe Alt. Third, I don't really like their offensive line, their run blocking to begin with. Fourth, and most important for me is I think Vidal earned a role. Like straight up, Vidal's playing good football. I don't think they're just going to go back to like no Vidal like we saw at the very end in that Giants game, like all Hampton type plays. So to me, he's the first that comes to mind of someone I'm just not confident in.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. On top of that, the matchups aren't good at the end of the year.
Yeah,
but
Vegas.
I do think the one. I don't know if Vegas is a good matchup, man.
It might not be.
They're not very talented, but like at least they play hard and they play sound.
True.
I do feel like they will want to get Hampton in a rhythm. Like I think that's really important for their offense is like to try to get some kind of run game. Maybe they just can't, and it's just over at this point for them. But I do feel like as the playoffs come, like they're gonna try. And like this game in particular, I would have circled like the Raiders coming out of the bye is like the opportunity to try to do that.
It's possible. Like when I watched the game last week, that Island game, like I felt like the only time they got any success on the ground, the Chargers, was when they were in the gun with Herbert, which is surprising. And they kind of went to like lighter personnel packages and let him run against lighter boxes.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I think their passing game has proven it and like has to be respected. And you could get some explosives from Hampton out of that kind of a formation, I feel like.
Yep.
So that I'm intrigued by him. I feel like there's a lot of upside, more than the rest of the guys in this range even, but maybe not. Like DeAndre Swift, Travis Etienne, like especially Etienne, we'll see on the Chicago backs. I don't really know what to do with them because the schedule is bad. And there's a potential for them to either one of them to play well enough to cut into the other's workload. I ended up being really high on Monangai, and that's just because I feel like he fits really well, like what Ben Johnson wants to do, and being able to keep this offense on track.
Okay.
And the run game has worked so well, and I've said this before. Like I feel like as you head into this freaking schedule, man, on the road against Brian Flores and the Vikings. Then you get Pittsburgh on the road against the Eagles, on the road against the Packers, then the Browns, then the Packers again. And it's just like, I don't think you want to put the ball in Caleb's hands that much to try to navigate through this. I could be wrong. Maybe he trusts Caleb to do that. But like, I do feel like he's going to try to lean on the run game. And Monangai is the one who gives him the best chance of like having successful runs over and over and over. So yeah, I'm pretty freaking high on him because there's also contingent upside where if Swift goes down, Monangai is like shooting up into this, honestly, like Rico Dowdle Derrick Henry,
Yes.
Kyron Williams range.
Fair. That's where he goes if Swift doesn't play. The flip side to that argument, of course, is with that schedule, there's a greater chance that the Bears fall into game scripts where they're playing from behind, in which case we'll see very little of Monangai.
Yeah. So this range where Monangai's at, this is where you'll find Travion Henderson too, 22.
Yeah.
And that's actually 2 spots below consensus. And I think it's totally valid. Like if you want to put Travion where Breece Hall is, or even like up and where Jaylen Warren and Chase Brown are,
Yeah.
I think he could. We don't know what's going to happen with Ramondre. And as we've outlined, the rest of the season, the schedule is awesome. And it just like makes sense that now that we've seen it, like they would want, like, yes, we need this. We need we need this in the run game. You know,
big
like
playability in our run game. Why not?
The run game hasn't been working. So like I would think that like he's going to keep getting opportunities. Probably not 20 touches or whatever, but we'll see.
I feel less confident than you in that.
Yeah,
I think the Patriots under Vrabel. They are going to use a lot of backs, and Stevenson is just not going to fall off when he comes back from a role standpoint, I don't think, but maybe
we'll see. It's toe, right? I feel like that is an injury that can
True.
freaking linger in football. And the other thought I had on the Travion point is like Jets, Bengals, Giants. Not only are those good matchups, Jets again at the end of the year, those are bad teams, you know, where it feels like they could just kind of run the ball a lot in those games. So that's where I'm at. But
then it's going to end up being like Terrell Jennings running the ball a lot.
We'll see. So after that is a bunch of guys kind of similar to Monangai, where it's like there's contingent upside if somebody gets hurt, like Kenneth Walker.
I see a good
David
one.
Montgomery.
One stands out though as potentially more than contingent. Well, 2 stand out now that we scrolled down far enough, but 2 stand out as potentially more than that. What you just described.
RJ Harvey, Woody Marks.
And Woody Marks. Yeah, you got him. You nailed them both. I'm surprised Woody Marks is still ranked so low. Is it a schedule issue?
It's a Houston Texans issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, these next couple of weeks look good, and Marks will probably shoot up like in terms of perceived value. But after that, he goes on the road against the Colts, on the road against the Chiefs. Week 17 is on the road against the Chargers. And yeah, I just don't trust this offense at all.
Okay.
There's definitely upside with Marks. If he's more valuable than Montgomery, Walker, even Hampton, and like some of the, even if he's more valuable than Ashton Jeanty and Junkins, that wouldn't surprise me.
Same.
This range is all pretty fluid, I would say, all the way down.
I'm a little nervous about the situation being, and I haven't watched their tape yet this week, but as weird as it's about to sound, is it possible that the Texans offense is better with Davis Mills than CJ Stroud? Like, no, probably not, but something weird's going on, man. And it seems like Nico Collins has been so much better without Stroud this year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I don't have a take on that.
I need to watch that situation because I think Mills is going to get another start this week.
Enjoy that. This range is all really similar to me. It's Jeanty, Etienne, Swift, Hampton, Henderson, Monangai, Walker, Montgomery, Woody Marks, Aaron Jones, Zach Charbonnet, and RJ Harvey. So I'm like way lower than Harvey, or way lower than consensus on Harvey.
Going on there?
Well, like he could be RB18. It makes no difference to me at all. And hopefully he is, right, for our sake. Hopefully he is,
right? For the brand.
Yeah, but we'll see. He's got Green Bay and 2 matchups against the Chiefs. He still has his bye week too.
True.
So I landed with him at the bottom of the tier for that reason. Okay. After that, it's like feel real dicey about everyone here. And so that's Ramondre Stevenson, Tyjae Spears, Bill Krosky Merritt. Like Alvin Kamara is probably the safest player here, or like Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning my boy Kareem Hunt. I don't know, what are we off? What's bad about Kareem Hunt right now?
I'm 8 spots ahead of consensus, so ask them. I don't know. Trey Benson.
Me. Oh, you're 8 spots higher?
Yes.
Who the heck is ranking? Kareem Hunt is he's going to have 6 touchdowns. These guys combined for 6 touchdowns, the guys we're mentioning.
Yeah, I think he's a good player to have on rosters. Trey Benson, I think, is the answer to somebody had like, I'm 10-0. Who should I be targeting?
Yep, I like that.
Players like that. And then here's Blake Corum, Tyler Algier, Bashal Tootin to kind of round things out here.
To be fair, though, this Cardinals run game is not what it was last year by any means. So I'm not all that excited about Benson's return, even if he's in that role, which I don't think he will. I think DeMarcado will still play the passing downs. And I think the Brissett ride is like coming to a screeching end at some point. They didn't look good last week. Yeah,
maybe. So here's the round out for the top 50. I think some players who you could stash are like Devin Neal for the Saints. We'll see if Alvin Kamara closes out the year. Brian Robinson for the Niners, Emmanuel Wilson for the Packers. Some of these, Ray Davis, Taj Brooks, Brashard Smith, probably one injury away. Phil Moff, I wanted to bring up for Dallas as somebody who's probably available in every league. Their
I like that.
RB2 spot is pretty unsettled. So yeah, there's the close of the rankings here. Let's take our second break, and we'll get back with some quarterback rest of season rankings.
Here we go. The 2025 CBS Sports NFL schedule is here. 18 glorious Sundays.
He's got his receiver touchdown.
Filled with rematches.
Oh, the play of the year.
And rivalries.
Touchdown, Bengals.
Plus, plenty of superstar showdowns. And an epic matchup between the Chiefs and Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Clear your Sundays beginning September 7th for the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
All right, QB rankings discussion will be pretty quick. It's pretty straightforward, but I do want to get fairly deep into it for anybody who's playing in Superflex leagues. So the top 5 are right in line with consensus. That's Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, and Drake May. The first deviation we find is I'm 2 spots above consensus on Baker Mayfield. I really like the schedule for the Bucs rest of season, and I think that things are continuing to trend in the right direction with everybody's health. So I'm pretty optimistic on him. Dak Prescott and Justin Herbert are the 2 players that they have above Baker Mayfield. And then there's Jackson Dart I've got at QB9. And I would actually put Caleb Williams at QB10 and Jordan Love at QB11. I would update this. Even still, I'm way above consensus on Love. I know this last game was obviously ugly. And really, he hasn't thrown a touchdown either the past 2 games, so it's not looking good. But I just seem to stay above consensus on Love. I think there's a lot of games that could be shootouts. You never know because, we just saw the Eagles that it can get so ugly so fast. And then the other thing is they're playing at Chicago at the end of the year in Green Bay. Some of these games could be weather games too.
Oh yeah. And by weather games, it could just be simple as no snow or rain, just what it was Monday night where it's so cold nobody can catch a ball.
So I'll ask you then, would you move Daniel Jones, Goff, Stafford, all these guys ahead of him? Yeah.
Yes to those 3. Nix is a weird one. He scores fantasy points by being bad at football. So I don't really know how to evaluate that. He'll just run him in occasionally or do some, roll around, make a throw on the run. I'll put Nix ahead of him too. I'm not high on Love whatsoever. Here's the other thing with Love that scares the hell out of me. We might get Matthew Golden back at some point, who wasn't really a big part of the offense, but we've lost Tucker Kraft for the rest of the season. And that's had a major impact on him. Quite frankly, some of the big explosive plays Love has benefited from a fantasy standpoint, a scoring standpoint, have just been post-catch runs from Tucker Kraft. And then secondly, their best offensive lineman's now on injured reserve. Elgin Jenkins is done.
The line is a problem.
And it keeps getting worse and worse for them on the offensive line too, from an injury standpoint. So he's dropping far from I'd even be willing to entertain the idea, as crazy as it sounds, because despite him being really bad at football, he's scoring fantasy points every week through his legs and has a really easy schedule. JJ McCarthy over Jordan Love. It sounds crazy. I understand that. No one else is going to think that makes any sense, but click the McCarthy schedule and we've got some good stuff coming up for JJ.
Yeah, I remember we liked it when we looked at Addison. JJ McCarthy, Bears, and then on the road against the Packers and the Seahawks. If he
Not good, but then Washington, Dallas, Giants, Detroit to end the year is really nice.
Could be. We will see. I mean, if things get really ugly in those games, I don't know if we have any guarantee that he makes it through. But I also don't know if there's much option. Injury-wise, or we don't want him on the field.
There's no one else now. It's him or Max Brosmer. And I actually thought Max Brosmer is low-key kind of decent at football. I liked him at Minnesota. But
he's completing 50% of his passes. And if they get the doors blown off him in these 2 games and the season's over, I think that they could go away from him. And he'll have an ankle injury.
It's possible. He's not good, but he runs for fantasy.
There's definitely upside there. Yeah. But I think there's upside for Love too. Love, the reason I always seem to be high on him is because his fantasy point per dropback number is insane, which he doesn't have as many dropbacks as the rest of the quarterbacks.
Right.
That stat is very sticky and predictive of future fantasy scoring. And so to me, it's if he ever does get into games where he's even dropping back 30 times, in that scenario, he's a top 6 quarterback. He just is, because he just prints points in this offense. But that doesn't happen that often, and I don't know that it will down the stretch. These are 4-1 quarterback leagues, so I lean more towards upside, which is why I think honestly JJ is a little bit too high. Jordan Love is a little bit too high.
Okay.
So yeah, where I've got a cutoff here is like JJ McCarthy, Marcus Mariota, Justin Fields, I think give you some upside. And so I think they're like potentially worth rostering in one quarterback leagues, depending on how deep your league is. And then it gets into just kind of like no man's land. So I wanted to sort this out for Superflex.
Sure.
Is there anybody that stands out to you here that you would move up, like ahead of like Joe Burrow and some of these guys, Jane Daniels, that we don't even know if they'll play?
Not necessarily ahead of
Like
those.
Tua, I honestly stands out to me. It might be somebody that you could buy. We've talked about that schedule, and
Yeah.
nobody nobody likes rostering Tua. It seems like, but he could be a low key like good buy for Superflex
Okay.
people if you are in need. If you lost Jane Daniels or whatever.
Let's click on, what do we work? Are you shucking it? Whoa, you're shucking it. The boy's shucking. He clicked Tyler Shuck. What are we hoping to get out of this guy?
He's got bye this week, and then Atlanta, Miami, Tampa Bay, Carolina, the Jets, the Titans to close things
A
out.
pretty nice close of the schedule, if you could trust Tyler Shuck. I still want to watch.
Is that a Devin Neal note? That schedule? Like, I don't know how we're going to benefit from that. Neal, Juwan Johnson. There's lots of cheap ways that it could be the answer. Maybe it's Tyler Shuck.
I don't find I'm struggling to find confidence in any of these players. Like Penix, let's click that schedule. I know we're really when we have to go to Penix, things are bad, but he does have insane weapons around him. Carolina, New Orleans, Jets, Seattle, Tampa, Arizona, Rams.
That's pretty rough down the stretch.
At least it's going to be a lot of good weather games, though, with the exception of that Jets game, which I do like a lot. I like the dome games.
Yeah.
Oh, no, Ben, in the comments, he says Dan has even watched Shuck tape and he's dogging it. I'm not dogging Shuck. I was just making a joke about how, like, we're digging down to Shuck here. Like, we're going real low into the rankings to try to find upside if we're going to Shuck. But I am not dogging Shuck. I will watch the tape. I'll get back to you. I actually like some of his tape at Louisville, so I am not dogging Shuck, to be clear.
I will say this. Do not go to Trevor Lawrence, in my opinion. It's pretty rough here. Indy, and then at Denver, at Indy again in week 17.
Thomas, Brian Thomas
like
Jr. hurt.
way lower than consensus.
Yeah. Lawrence is devastating. Brian Thomas Jr. is hurt. We don't know when he'll be back. We don't know if he'll ever be playing healthy this whole year. And Travis Hunter's now been placed on season-long IR, so it's bad there.
Yeah. Okay, let's look at wide receiver. It's the guys at the top. We've talked about already. Waddle, Pickens are the guys beyond Emeka Egbuka, Nafante Adams, and Drake London. Here's where I've got Justin Jefferson. So we talked about how he kind of profiles more as like a wide receiver too, with the way all the underlying volume stuff lately has lined up for him. It's not the traditional like wide receiver one type of outline. But still, I've got him as a low end wide receiver one because who are you going to put ahead of him? For Dan's money, he's willing to go to Zay Flowers ahead of him. But here are the receivers who I have ranked right behind Justin Jefferson. I'm curious if you guys prefer any of them. It's Ladd McConkey, Flowers, Devontae Smith, Nico Collins, T. Higgins, Roma Dunze, and then you get down to like Chris Olave, AJ Brown, Stefon Diggs, Jordan Addison. Like, I don't know, man. I think he's wide receiver has kind of taken a weird turn where like even though it's not good for him. I think actually he probably still has about the same value as where he was drafted. As weird as that sounds, like not quite, but pretty close. And there's upside that if the pass game does figure it out, like Dan highlighted, that the schedule gets really nice.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's an interesting one. And I wanted to bring it up because we've talked about him and been sort of negative. We kind of like in jest compared his per route fantasy point production on a per route basis to Tez Johnson. It's the exact same. It hasn't been a great year for Justin Jefferson, but that's mainly because he only has 2 touchdowns, and that might get better if some of these game scripts line up better for him, the matchups line up better for him.
I want to come around to it, Jacob. I really do. I mean, look, he's got one of the best play designers in the NFL. You got to figure there's ways to get him the football, even with a quarterback like McCarthy, who's not like, it's not just like he's a nothing out there, McCarthy. He's a professional quarterback. He was drafted for a reason. Maybe throwing wasn't the number one reason he was drafted, or like where he's at as far as the development goes there. But I do like the upside there. But it would be tough for me personally to take him over a player like McConkey, who I think the Chargers, with the situation they're at from a pass blocking standpoint, are just forced to use McConkey as the key cog because, and it's not even like he's getting insane volume, but just like the solution, because it's in quick game, you need someone who's going to win the route very fast. And that's what McConkey's going to do for them. So to me, that's like a pure green flag up for him. And then clicking out of him for a second, I couldn't rank Jefferson over T. Higgins rest of season. I have T. Higgins way up there, either 13 or 12, because he's getting Burrow back. Even without Burrow, it doesn't matter. He's so good, and he's got quarterback play now. So I'm high on T. Higgins rest of season as well for that reason. But outside of that, I would struggle. I mean, Nico has started to come along a little bit, but some of that's been with Davis Mills. And if you take away that busted coverage with CJ Stroud touchdown, it was really bad for Nico with Stroud the entire year. So a little scary. AJ Brown today, I don't know if you saw this on a stream, said, "Trade me if you have me in fantasy." It's a really bad sign. Like, did you see that? It's unbelievable.
No.
He was on a stream and like they recorded, the fan recorded, and he was just like, he's like, "How you doing?" He's like, "What do you mean? How am I doing? What do you think?" Horrible. Like, he's just like so depressed, and he's just like, and then basically at the end he's just like, "If you have me in fantasy, just trade me." He's like, "The most fun I had was playing this Madden game with you because I was actually able to go like 11 for 236 and a touchdown."
Wild. Okay. Who would you move ahead of AJ Brown then? I would move Diggs ahead of him pretty easily. Sutton?
No.
Michael Pittman? DK Metcalf?
No. Pierce. Move Pierce.
Alec Pierce?
I love Pierce.
This show is insane.
I know. Receivers falling off really bad in fantasy. This is the worst year I can remember.
I'm saying beyond the box score is insane. I'm extremely high on Alec Pierce, and every time I show up here, people are like, "You're not high enough on Alec Pierce. You do it to me. Ryan does it to me. My buddy Ethan, like the chat, does it to me." Like, Alec Pierce, I mean, I guess this is where we're at with him. He's just
got it. There's nothing left at receiver in fantasy.
Like, if you look at my rankings, he's the player who I'm the highest on relative to consensus.
Right,
I'm 11 spots ahead of consensus, and like
we still are not sure. Well, I just I don't want Sutton. I don't want to pair him with Nix and a guy who like can't do anything from in the pocket. I don't want Tetero McMillan on an offense that can't drop back and pass the football. Like, these are just players that are great football players in Sutton and McMillan, but they're in horrific situations.
Such a weird year.
And then Addison has McCarthy. Like, that doesn't feel good. Marvin Harrison Jr. is injured right now. Like, it's just, I don't know what to do at receiver. It's a very weird spot.
Okay, so Alec Pierce ahead of him, Pittman ahead of him.
I'm like, as crazy as it sounds, dude, like, there are players ranked lower for you that I'm considering moving into this range.
Who?
Okay. Xavier Worthy. I know he hasn't done it yet, but I've liked some of the commentary out of KC, and I know he's getting open. I'm watching him. I could see a potential stretch run from him like he had last season. Start with him. Second guy, or we can look at him, and then we can go to the next guy.
Wanted to show the schedule. He's got Denver in week 17, Denver this week as well. He still has Indy on the schedule. He still has Houston and the Chargers both on the schedule as well.
Don't love that. But he's a big play merchant, and he did it last year against some tough matchups. The next guy I would bring up after him would be Jamison Williams. Really think they figured something out with Dan Campbell, which is, let's just use this dude on overs and crossing routes. Let's clear out space for him and get him the football horizontally instead of just always using him on like deep in cuts, deep digs, and vertical routes. I think that could be a little cheat code for their offense moving forward, and it's something that intrigues me.
Definitely upside there. It feels better than AJ Brown at this point, right?
Feels better than Sutton, feels better than Addison to me, feels better than Tetero McMillan to me.
The offense is definitely better.
Right.
I'm fine with that. I've had a hard time with JMO this year, for obvious reasons. We've outlined it, but maybe times are changing.
Yeah, I just haven't felt good until now with him. And then let's get to the crazy one that I'm starting to see creep up. As I mentioned, those two, Worthy and JMO, those are ones people probably can get behind from a talent standpoint. This one's going to be weird. But Tez Johnson, I'm not kidding. I'm really not kidding. Tez Johnson's in a great offense. Evans is coming back, week 16 if we're lucky. Who knows on Godwin? It's such a bad injury front there. He's got the quarterback. He's got the offense. He's producing right now within it. He looks good to us on tape, Tez Johnson. Why am I taking guys like McMillan and all these guys who are names, but in horrific offenses that are not getting targets or production on a weekly basis over a player like Tez? It's a question I ask myself as I look through these rankings.
Yeah, we just don't know how things are going to develop for the Carolina Panthers, is what basically the reason that McMillan is at this point. right now they're leaning on only the run game, and maybe it'll stay that way all year. But it could shift, and
How?
they start passing more, like they
Like
have to.
how?
Rico Dowdle gets hurt. Like I know things shift as the year goes on. What do you mean how? Like any number of ways.
Okay,
How?
I that sounded bad, but let me try to phrase that in a way that doesn't sound as ridiculous. How, in the sense of like functionally, how? One, they cannot pass protect at all. They can't operate drop back pass game because every time they try to do it, there's pressure on Bryce. Two, Bryce looks terrible this year, partially because they can't operate a drop back passing game with an offensive line that pass protects that poorly. So, like, how, in the sense of like functionally, how are they going to get him the ball?
Same way as the Giants with Malik Neighbors last year, basically. Like it's not good. It's not good football. But like if they don't have any better option.
True, but I feel like with Neighbors, it was all designed like underneath stuff, like drag routes and things like
He
that.
He had tons of deep looks and a really deep route tree.
Didn't do well with it, but he did have it. Most of the production I felt like came on some of the underneath stuff,
which I think you could do with McMillan. In theory.
McMillan, okay, but I have to see that could be the change to get him involved and to start to like move the ball through the air. But it's just hard for me to get excited about that offensive line and pass protection and Bryce Young.
Totally. Yeah. Which is why he's here. It's just that like there definitely is upside for this to get better. And he's such a good player. And we do see rookies play better at the end of the year.
True.
The guys behind him, I guess, worthy you would move ahead of him, but like Marvin Harrison Jr., it feels like a pretty similar situation. And I honestly feel better about McMillan as a player. Do not turn on the Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Seattle film if you've got Marvin Harrison Jr. on your dynasty team. Romeo Doubs, DK Metcalf, Khalil Shakir. I just feel like there's so much more upside with McMillan. Like
agreed on the upside case. So let me make that clear. I want the listeners to know I understand what you're saying. Like from an upside standpoint, we're not going to get Tez Johnson to
like even simply if we went to Andy Dalton, like if you know what I mean? Like if we went to Andy Dalton and they were throwing more, like, and they're just like, he can get the ball out quick. It'll be not good, but like, it'll be okay.
Yep. Completely agree. If they went to Dalton, I'd feel a lot more confidence in McMillan from a fantasy production standpoint, but I don't think they're going to do that.
And Bryce could get hurt. He's already been hurt. He's tiny. And like, the line is terrible and he runs around to try to make things happen because he's kind of at a desperate point in his career. Like that could happen.
Yeah.
There's just a lot, like it could happen. And like, he's a really good player. So
I guess I'm just at the point where I'm just like, season's coming down to the line. We're in week 10. I'm trying to get production that's right now from the offense, like Quentin Johnston, Tez Johnson, these players that are actually in offenses that produce and they produce are starting to move up for me, given the landscape at wide receiver.
They're moving up for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair to prefer those guys. Especially if you don't have, like, if you're just starting T-Mac and just eating like bad games,
bad weeks.
But really, it hasn't even been that bad. Like, it's the worst game was a month ago. He had
out the Buffalo game,
a really bad game. Yeah,
we can't count that because it's Dalton isn't. The Bryce games are agreed. They're not like horrifically bad, but they're not good.
Yeah. So there are plenty of players. I think maybe a good way to wrap this discussion up is there's a lot of players who you could play ahead of T-Mac that I don't have ranked ahead of him because I want the access to like this kind of ultimate hypothetical upside that exists with him. But like there are these guys like Tez Johnson, Wan'Dale Robinson, and there's even like lower tier guys like Parker Washington. Jawan Jennings, I think, is coming along. Some of these players who could give you something. I think I've been maybe just stuck on this Darnell Mooney take, but like I feel like he's looked a little bit healthier lately and might be close. It's not been a good year for him. He hasn't looked quite right all year. But like if he can turn it around, there's some players here that are free. Like and I don't know. That's the bottom of the range here is really weird.
The bottom of the range actually features some guys I have like a little bit of hope for versus that like mid range we just went by that I was like kind of nasty on. Like Brian Thomas Jr. I have a little bit of hope for just because like it's like everything else is falling apart in Jacksonville and he's still Brian Thomas Jr. versus some of these other players from a talent standpoint. Jawan Jennings I like a lot. Pearsall I like a lot. I like buying into the 49ers pass game as Purdy gets healthy and gets back. I can see potential for Shaheed with just given how well Sam Darnold is playing. Sam Darnold, I saw a stat today, Jacob. This was crazy. I think it was from Ryan Heath, your boy. Sam Darnold has like a 72% completion rate on 20 plus yard throws. The next highest quarterback was like 54%, Drake May, or 59%. And then every single other quarterback was sub 50%.
Yeah. That's what I was like thinking about last year's numbers. I'm like, I think it would be like in the 30s and 40s.
Right.
Is like a decent rate.
Right.
70% is silly.
And that could be something for Shaheed to think about. Something to think about with Shaheed.
Oh, yeah. Troy Franklin was the other guy I wanted to bring up as like
Okay.
somebody who you might be able to plug in right now. If you're just kind of trying to wait on Debo Samuel, Luther Burden, Jamison Williams, where you haven't known. JMO, it seems like we're kind of arriving there, but like most of the year, like, can I start him? Like, it doesn't feel like it. And then if you're stuck with, Tedro McMillan is probably the best version of this, where it's like you don't, or really AJ Brown is probably the best version of this, where you don't know if you can start them.
AJ Brown.
There are some other options.
He told you not to.
Yeah, so I moved AJ Brown down to the exact same spot as McMillan and Marvin Harrison Jr. Romeo Dobbs, you could move ahead of them if his health checks out all right.
Sure.
Worthy, you could move ahead. Metcalf, Khalil Shakir, Wanda Robinson, Quentin Johnston, you can move those guys ahead of him.
Okay. We're about to get the Jameis Winston boost too. The most air yards by far in the NFL last year. Jameis Winston. Well, who's that going to help? Probably Slayton.
Yeah, Slayton looked great last week, man.
So maybe he's someone to consider.
Tight end rest of season. I have Trey McBride ahead of Brock Bowers, followed by George Kittle and Tyler Warren, and they're basically all the same in my opinion. I think we could get some really fun games from Warren down the stretch, so he could be tight one. Wouldn't surprise me. Like they've got the Chiefs out of the bye week, then they've got the Texans, the Jaguars, the Seahawks, the Niners, the Jaguars. So there's some good defenses here, but also like the worst quarter. Like if Stroud and Trevor can like deliver, then any of these games could be back and forth games, and like a lot of teams with playoff implications, the Texans being the only one that like maybe is out. So that's just interesting to me. We finally saw him give you some yardage upside. It's been capped at like 79 as a high, but he gave you 99 yards this past week, caught 8 of 10 targets. So I think, these top four are real locked in. And then it is the next tier, which is Jake Ferguson and Sam Laporta. And Gadsden, it seems like, is looking all right. Maybe avoided a serious injury, thank God.
Cost me 2 matchups last week, but he's practicing today.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to eat bad games at tight end,
It's not a bad game, though. He just got hurt.
Right. I know. I'm just saying, like, that could happen for anybody. I know. Freaking Brock Bowers, very well.
You move Kelsey up, please. What are we doing with Kelsey down there behind Goddard and Kincaid? Move him up.
You don't know.
What you don't know? Look at him. Oh, I know.
Look at him.
Yeah, that's not bad.
That's not bad. Yeah, no, I think they've been forcing the ball lately. Just almost like a narrative thing. Like
no, he still looks good.
Anecdotally, like it feels good if he's able to do something. Yeah.
Okay, that's all we need for fantasy, though. I want narrative.
Well, I just don't think they're going to do that all year. Okay. I could be wrong. Maybe this is actually the plan, but to me, it's like you've got so many better options to get the ball to, and now it feels like the narrative has shifted to Worthy.
Okay.
It felt like to me like things had gotten weird. Where he kept dropping the ball. He like lost them a game where he dropped the ball. And then I think it was a Buffalo game, maybe it was Washington, where he had the dropped interception. They immediately came back and just like force fed him after that. Yeah. That I just don't know if this stuff is real or not. To me, I'm not assuming that anything has changed that much. Like he looks a little bit faster than he did in the past. But I do think like with Rice back, it's not a good equation for Kelsey. I mean, I've got him ahead of Colson Loveland and Harold Fannin. I'm really high on, I think this is a totally valid spot. Sure. I guess if Kincaid's injury is bad, then you move him ahead of him.
We might be too low on Juwan if the Shuck stuff is for real. And I do want to watch Shuck this week. Juwan has a shot.
Yeah, I hope you guys have been able to get your hands on Juwan if you needed it, because I do think he's pretty interesting as somebody who could give you this top 12 type of tight end production with a good schedule here down the stretch following the Sheehy trade.
Yeah.
Hunter Henry, I continue to think is like a pretty decent buy low if you like need a Band-Aid at tight end. I know it hasn't been good lately, but like the schedule is good. Like we've talked about a lot. There could be a lot of points scored. I think things just unless you're an elite tight end, it fluctuates throughout the year, game to game. And I would be totally fine just betting on him as an important piece attached.
Theo Johnson is tight end 10 over Jackson Dart starts.
Yeah, he's interesting. I never want to start him. It drives me crazy watching him drop the ball.
Got bad drop problems
when you like need it, but he's definitely interesting. I don't know what to expect of the offense or Dart down the stretch. How much he's going to be able to play or keep running, or like how much the offense is going to keep working. They've got Green Bay and then on the road against Detroit and then on the road against the Patriots, and those are obviously brutal. matchups. But yeah, if everything is like we've seen at the end of the year, then yeah, Theo could be really good for fantasy in this last stretch run here in the fantasy playoffs. He could be a sneaky guy.
I like
for
him
you.
this week a lot, by the way. I just think looking at the offense, looking at Jameis Winston as the starter, it's going to have to be a lot of seam balls against the Packers. And that is like Jameis Winston can throw the seam. He can throw it really well. And I think that's going to be a lot of Theo Johnson in this game.
Yeah. With Jameis, that is very interesting. I'm fine moving him up to like where Kyle Pitts is basically at tight end 15. Like he could be the next one up of this group.
Sure.
Totally fine with me.
Crazy how we're like deeper at tight end than we are at receiver. It's actually insane. You only need to start one tight end a week, and we're like, okay, with like the guys we have ranked down at 18. We get to receiver, and it's like we're at 21, and we're like, I don't even know what to do with this guy. I can't trust him at all. He's like my 20th ranked receiver.
At the bottom here, the players I would highlight are Terrence Ferguson, I think is a name to know as the season closes out. AJ Barner for the Seahawks, I think he's a good player. And if they do end up passing more, we brought up on yesterday's like 10 mind-blowing stats that the Seahawks have played from behind on only 11% of their plays. They've been playing with the lead almost exclusively. It's like a 99th percentile outcome throughout history. And so like, if there has to be more passing, then like that's going to benefit all of these guys. And I do think he's a pretty good player and he's out there all the time. Brenton Strange is another one to know, like the Jags desperately need him. I think he's like practice window just opened up, right? He could be back sometime soon. So that's someone to know. He returned to practice. Hell yeah, that could be huge.
I like that call.
Yeah,
a lot.
That's basically it at the bottom. I don't think there's anybody else that's giving you much upside. You can keep rolling with the Dalton Schultz stuff if you want. My brother and I, we just finished this super long drive. If you guys missed the beginning of the show, my brother and I spent like 10 or 11 hours in the car over the past 2 days, and so we've talked about our dynasty teams, and like during that time you get to all sorts of crazy ideas. And one of them is like, should we buy Rico Dowdle? I'm like, dog, it could be great. I love this Rico Dowdle stuff. It's very fun, but just from like strictly a profile standpoint, that's probably the worst player that you could buy in dynasty right now. Like literally might be the stone cold worst player. Just looking at it like numbers, like if you just ignore who he is, it's like you want to buy a running back with no draft capital, doesn't really have athleticism. It's like buying a day 3 running back, but he already has all the wear and tear. He's not 23 years old. And he's on the Panthers and he doesn't catch passes. Like
I'm trying to find, he only signed a 1-year deal too for Medina. That's rough.
For season long, I'm into it. If you want to roll the dice on that, there's definitely upside for this to just like keep going all year. And he's like a huge player for you if you can get him for cheap, but for dynasty, like no way. And then somehow at the end of the drive, he's like, what do you think about Schultz in a team where we were like, I think it was like a best ball team where we're like trying to get one more shot at tight end points each week. I was like, you did it. You found the player I would like rather trade for even less. Schultz,
besides a 4th round pick that wouldn't make you feel like you're killing your team?
Nothing. I'm not trading for Dalton Schultz. Like literally we're even worse than Dowdle. We're like that. No way. To me, like Schultz is like, you're just betting on random volume continuing to happen. Like it's in a terrible offense. There's no touchdown upside. There's no yardage upside. You're just
most of it's come from Mills anyway.
He's clearly been playing through injuries. Just like you're hoping that he can just like keep riding this out and just get checked down crap over and over. It's like just get TJ Hawkinson or something. There's tons of guys that are like that, or even better, like go get somebody who actually could get touchdowns at tight end.
Right.
All right, we've got some listener questions. That was off topic, but it just cracked me up.
I love a little good rant, a little good Jacob rant. I'm usually one ranting, so it's good to get you going a little bit.
Okay, so we got a few questions. I'll check Apple again real quick to make sure there's none that I missed over the last couple of days. So the first one is a start-sit question that we can't get to. I just want to bring this up again, but I did want to bring it up. So first, for the listeners, like the start-sit ones don't make sense when we do these shows. We do it on Tuesday and Wednesday. So like if we don't see it on Wednesday, which most of the questions don't come in during the initial like part of the week, then it's already the next week by the time we see it. Correct. But we did get one that was like asking a question about who he should start against you, Dan. And so this was your week 10 FFT open opponent. Do you know how that matchup went? Did they start Garrett Wilson?
I grinded a win out. Let me see. Did he start who?
Did they start Garrett? The question was about Garrett Wilson. And I was like, oh man, based off how Dan was talking, I think Dan probably got the win. And so maybe they started Garrett Wilson and got 0.
Let me see if he started Garrett against us. It was not our best performance. We were two of the better teams in the league, if I'm not mistaken, but it was not our better performance. Let me just take a quick look and see if he started Garrett Wilson. I'm in the page right now. Oh, never mind. It's going to be tough to get. Let's see if I can get back to week. Oh, here it is. Week 10. Did he or did he not start Garrett Wilson? It was a grindy, gross matchup. We were 7-2 and 7-2 coming into the game, the two best teams in the league, and yet we only scored 101 and 92.5. Even though it was a week where everybody scored, he started Garrett Wilson, got the 0, and pretty sure he literally lost because, if he started Alec Pierce, he wins. If he started Tedero McMillan, he wins. If he started Woody Marks and moved, I guess would have moved Dunze out of the flex, he would have won as well. So
dang,
that's tough luck.
Alec Pierce on the bench, that is tough.
How are you doing in your FFT Open, by the way? I've moved to first.
I'm doing great. I just have had a bunch of injuries. I had Bowers, I had Bucky Irving. I can't remember who the other ones were, but it's just been kind of that, like, riding that out. But I think we're arriving at a good spot at the end of the year here. So yeah, shout out Latter-day Saints. Listening to the show, obviously put together a pretty stacked team there.
Yep.
But of course, shout out Dan, can be Dan. Next question is somebody wants to know about Brock Bowers, which of course,
yep.
What do we do with Brock Bowers? Just a week ago, everybody was shouting from the rooftops about Brock Bowers. He's the best player to touch football. And then the next week he has one catch. Did you have any thoughts from that game? What we saw from their offense? Are we just chalking it up to matchup and then we're back on track for probably 40 points or so this week against Dallas?
Well, we did hear after the game, Pete Carroll say we did try to get him the ball. We had designed stuff for him and we just weren't able to do it.
We're all trying to find the guy who did this.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the vibe and feel I got from that. But the game script was really weird in that game. The game flow was really weird. I think we'll get back on track with Bowers. He looks healthy. He looks so healthy in that Jags film. It's just, I didn't expect this to happen, right? Like, I didn't expect any hiccups after the Week 9 game. I thought we were right back on track then. So I don't know. The schedule looks pretty good. Dallas, LAC is not great against tight ends. The Cleveland game could be nasty. Never mind on that. Then we got Denver again, Philly, Houston. So it gets a little nasty down the stretch with a really good opportunity in the fantasy championship if you can get there against the Giants. I think I'm still in on it. And after last week, you probably have an opportunity to buy again because people will just be like frustrated. They're like, I waited all year on Bowers and then he's still going to give me games like this one.
Sure. Yeah. If you can buy Bowers, do that. I'm basically where Dan's at. The schedule does scare me. Like there's lots of these games where Cleveland is still playing pretty inspired defense.
Yep.
Myles Garrett's obviously wrecking people. And so like he could go 1-on-5 against this line. And I'd be worried that Gino would be able to get the ball to Bowers in time. I just don't think that their route concepts for Bowers make that much sense, at least in this Denver game when the line is playing the way it is. Like there were several plays where it's like, what you got to get the ball out quicker here. And they've done that at times this year. So let's see how this develops going forward. But they got to play Denver again, like this stretch right here is really gross. And that's 5 straight games. So yeah, I don't have him at tight end 1. That is McBride, even with the uncertainty in Arizona. And like I said, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Tyler Warren or George Kittle outscore Bowers. Okay, this is a Spotify question from Ryan Pribnow, I believe. It says, hey guys, awesome show. Watch every episode.
Thanks,
the show. Thank you, Ryan. It's the show I find the most vital in choosing my starting lineup every week. Oh, this is a mastering matchup shout out. Heck yeah. Thanks, Ryan. That's the Thursday show. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we go into all the nitty gritty of the matchup data. My question is, when looking at your newsletter, Jacob, how do I know who you value higher between wide receiver and running back when I'm choosing between 2 flex players? I wanted to ask you about this, Dan. So what is your thoughts on this in terms of what we can offer people with this? Because I know that CBS has, I looked and CBS has weekly flex rankings posted on the site. And that's like, I think Jamie, Heath, and Dave all have their flex rankings with format specific to. I believe the plan is to have my rankings on there next year, which would be cool.
Yes.
So for now, I want to get those flex rankings in the newsletter anytime that I can. That'll be in the Friday update. But I wanted to ask you if you have anything else. Like Heath has projections. So I do the Sunday morning start sit live stream with Adam and Heath. Anytime the discussion comes up, most of the time I kind of like outsource the Heath's projections because it's like tight ends versus receivers, tight ends versus running backs and stuff, like format specific. Right. It's pretty tough. Do you know of any other resources we have that we can point people towards?
So you can look at Dave's trade chart. Every single week, Dave updates his trade chart as a rest of season rankings as well. So he'll assign a value for a player. And then that's more rest of season as far as we're looking for week matchups, right? How to make decisions for each week. Yeah. I just point the listeners to Mastering the Matchups. Listen to the Thursday show. I mean, we're not going to hit every player. You guys aren't going to hit every player, but you're going to hit the key ones that I think they're deciding between. And you're going to skip the ones that are obvious every week's type starters. And then as far as maybe, as you mentioned, next season, we will be looking to, like, it's a priority on my list of getting the product team to get your rankings up on the site.
All righty. Yeah. I'll try to get you those flex rankings, and when I can get them up and ready for the Mastering matchup show too.
Right.
All right. Let's finish up with some of these questions we got from the chat today.
Yeah, we're doing more chat questions. We want to get the chat more involved. We want to be more involved with the chat. Thank you so much for your comments. Really appreciate that. Even you, and I'm not gonna can't even mention his name. One of my biggest trolls in the chat has a name I can't mention on air, but I respect him anyway. So we're gonna be answering some more chat questions moving forward. What we got first?
Before we get to that, I've got another one from Spotify. They wanted to see the bug catcher outfit, and I wanted to show this to you, Dan. Check it out.
Oh my god!
Halloween bug catcher Pokemon. Are you familiar with these at all? Like the trainer type bug catchers?
No.
Do you know what I'm doing here?
No.
Yeah, that's fair.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I did play Pokemon as a kid.
They're a signature trainer type, and like they're known and they talk about it a lot. Like they wear short shorts is what they always wear around it. So I did that for Halloween, and people just looked at me super, super strange because it was like freaking 40 degrees out in Kansas City.
What do you mean by trainer type? I thought Ash was don't we play as Ash or?
Yeah, it's like you encounter different types of trainers throughout your journey. And like when you're in the forest and stuff like that, or the tall grass is mostly where you find, these bug catchers. You'll run into bug catchers, or maybe there's all kinds of different types.
Interesting. All I remember is I played Pokemon Red and Blue on Game Boy.
You probably saw some bug catchers then.
I feel like I saw some bug catchers. I just remember the rare candy. I remember the trick of riding along that river back and forth trying to get rare candy. It was like a glitch in the game that I figured out and that many others figured out. And then, of course, after you put like 122 hours into your game, the file would just get corrupt. And, as a 6 or 7-year-old kid, I would just crying freakouts, just absolute crash outs, hard crash outs.
One time my dad, because I was probably just being a dumb kid like that was annoying him, he threw a cracker out the window, and I thought it was my freaking Game Boy cartridge, my Pokemon Gold, and I absolutely lost my mind. It's like, you do not understand what you just did. Like sweat and tears so many nights, like under the cover I'm supposed to be sleeping. Like, that's crazy, man.
You put hours into that game. I mean hours, and to have a file corrupt like that, you gotta cry. What else are you gonna do as a 7-year-old?
All right, let's get to some questions here. There's a lot of people that don't know what we're talking about. We got to start sit question. Zach Ertz or Arundel Gadsden, Charbonnet or Tony Pollard? Crazy.
I am strongly Gadsden and Charbo in this.
Yeah, for sure. If Gadsden can go, are there any weird game time considerations with those two? I'll check on that. And
Gadsden's practicing today, so I feel like we're in a good spot there.
More so, I mean, like, does anybody play on Monday night or the Sunday morning game or anything like that?
God, I really hope they're not putting the Commanders back on a primetime game for that one.
Here's your next question. What do you think about this one, Dan?
Okay, we got Pickens. We're trading Pickens and we're getting back Olave and Warren. This is an interesting one because it talks a lot about the players we referenced today. He says he already has JSN and Rice. I assume this means you are a start max of 3.
The question is Pickens or Olave for Warren, not Pickens for Olave and Warren.
Yeah, I think Olave for Warren is the play here, and I think you can get that off.
Olave for Warren. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Like, we could have done flex rest of season today, but that is really tough. It's mostly dependent on your team context. I like the schedule for Olave. Like, we lined up Warren's and it looked good, but Olave's this too. And if you got Jason and Rice, then yeah, I'm fine with that. They're pretty similar. Him and Warren. I definitely wouldn't do Pickens for Warren. We got people do not agree. I think the Justin Jefferson stuff is really interesting. The consensus was higher than me too. This comment is that Justin Jefferson is their favorite trade target, major buy low, juicy end of season schedule. If you're in on Jefferson, go get him, because some people are thinking the way that we are, right? There's a lot of fear, I feel like, uncertainty and doubt with Mr. JJ McCarthy at this time. So you might be able to go get Jefferson if you believe that they can turn things around in the back half here. Stafford, Dak, or Burrow rest of season. If you don't need the points right now, I suppose, is Burrow somebody you'd put in the same range as these guys? What do you expect when he gets back?
Just given the schedule is shaping up well, yeah, I think it'd be Burrow.
Interesting. I would just go with Dak, I think. I feel really good about Dallas. Dak is the new Burrow, right? That's what we've outlined for fantasy this year. I have Sam Laporta at tight end. I'm wondering if I should pick up Dalton Schultz because of the matchup. What are your thoughts? We'll just roll with Laporta.
Laporta, right? I think he's injured. I don't know if he practiced today. So just keep an eye on that. Schultz, it could be a good backup plan if you can't go Laporta. But I'm with Jacob. I would go Laporta if he plays.
Yeah. In PPR, what wide receiver should I target? I want to trade one running back and one wide receiver away in a package out of Etienne, Henderson, and Marks, and BTJ, Jennings, and Wandale. Who would you trade away out of that group?
We could look to get. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Do this part first.
You're good. I feel like I don't know if any of those receivers have much appeal for people right now.
That's the problem.
It would probably be Wandale and Woody for me are the guys I would try to sell on.
Much back out of that though.
I don't think so either.
If you want one of these types we talked about today, the Waddle or Pickens type buy nows, you're going to have to put in Henderson into that deal.
Yeah, that's interesting. Henderson, maybe. That's what I was going to ask you. Who do you think has the most perceived value? It is Etienne by consensus, just barely over Henderson. Maybe that gets you to Waddle or Pickens.
I want to buy on Henderson because he's explosive and he adds another element to that offense. But so much of me is just so scared of how they distribute touches in that backfield.
Yeah, that's fair. If you don't need him, it might not be a bad idea to sell high if you feel like you already have good upside plays from your top two running backs. If it's I kind of need something at running back too, I would love to hold Henderson and see if we get kind of crazy here at the end. Because
the most upside is Henderson there, so you're giving up a big chunk of your
last
upside.
Week could have been a freaking 45-point game, dude. He got stuffed 3 times in a row at the goal line. He had another play where he just got shoestring tackled.
True.
I want to believe such a big game
because the talent is there, and I love this profile coming into the draft and his tape. So I want to believe. I'm scared of that coaching staff.
I think Diggs is another one to target. With these types of players, I think you can maybe get to Diggs with some kind of package.
Yeah. You throw in Jennings and maybe Etienne or something like that.
PPR keeper league. I can get Derrick Henry, Judkins, or McConkey for Swift and a 3rd or 4th next year. I don't exactly understand this. I don't think it's a dynasty league, so I don't think these are 3rd or 4th rookie picks. I think this means 3rd or 4th round pick.
It's hard for us without knowing the context of what those are worth from a value standpoint.
If I'm understanding that right, I don't think I would do that. Maybe for Henry.
Henry was the one I was considering if you want to just go all in.
But I don't actually have Swift way behind Henry right now. I think things could have set up really well for him. Yeah, I don't love it.
Yeah, me either.
Regs Lugo loves the show. Thank you, Regs.
Thank you, Regs.
I have Hampton and Benson in the wings with Walker and Monanga as my primary running backs. What a crazy group.
Very nice.
I picked up Sean Tucker.
Something's got to work there. I feel like something has to work there.
I don't know. Hopefully. There's none of those guys are in the top 20 of the rest of season rankings that we just did,
But all of them were if this happens, he could be a top 10. If this happens, at least something has to hit there.
It's a 5-5 team. I don't feel very comfortable with that, rolling with that week to week here, where it's 5-5, you're right on the fence of making the playoffs.
Yeah, you need some breathing room, but I don't know what else you can do. You can't trade Hampton at this point. You can't trade Benson at this point. You can't trade. I guess
maybe you can get Jaylen Warren. I feel better about him than those guys. Maybe you can turn Hampton plus into Warren or something, you know?
Okay.
I just feel like he's kind of perpetually undervalued. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I mean, I would look to do it. I'd look to dangle Hampton as your main piece to dangle to get help now, because again, I'm not as sold as others that he's coming back strong.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the guys who are above this, who I do feel good about starting. Basically, there's like 17, 18, 19, something like that, running backs that I feel pretty good about starting right now.
Yes.
And I think he's one of the only ones you could trade for, unless you want to like take a random shot on Breece Hall or something like that. But even him, like he's coming off a pretty big week. I don't know if he's going to be cheap. And I don't
Fair.
like the matchups the next few weeks. Yeah, I would try to get Jaylen Warren, and then like maybe you could go after Chase Brown or Rico Dowdle or something like that. But honestly, I don't know. That's tough. I would make a move if I was 5-5 with that group. There's too much uncertainty. Sutton, Pickens, or Devontae Etienne. I think this is packages. Would you rather have Sutton and Pickens or Devontae and Etienne?
Devontae and Etienne for me. That's not that far away though, because I do like Pickens, but I just strongly prefer Etienne over Sutton.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Do you have any thoughts on this one, Addison or Monangai, their relative value?
Addison for Monangai. It's kind of like, well, it's like an upside thing. Like if Swift gets hurt, or he is hurt, if he gets a serious injury, Monangai becomes, like you said, a top 12 borderline option, maybe honestly higher. So, I mean, we saw what he could do in his one start. So I think I would take the Monangai side and swing for the fences.
Yeah, I think so too. Unless you need receiver.
Like, are we confident in any kind of floor for Addison? Not really.
No. Yep, I think they're pretty similar, where they're kind of risk, like boom bust kind of plays, and I think there's a lot more upside if Monangai gets into that top running back type of range. Addison, I don't know how he really gets to that kind of player. I think the best case for Addison is that he's like a Alec Pierce kind of player, what he's been doing recently. Like he's popping off on some of these deep plays.
The problem with that is like everything in McCarthy's tape dating back to Michigan is he doesn't locate the deep pass at all. At least Jones can like lollipop a ball up there high, and Pierce just like high points it. Yeah.
Honestly, I might be too high on Addison. Alec Pierce or Parker Washington rest of season? It's like easily Pierce for us. Did you have any thoughts on Washington that you wanted? We haven't really
still had a nice role. Had a nice role. People were scared. They traded for a receiver. Nope. He trusts Parker Washington. Nice little full PPR type play. That's where I'm at with Washington. If I'm in a full PPR league, I can start him with some level of confidence.
Yeah. I'm 10-0. Who should I target? Ricky Pearsall. I love to hear from a 10-0 team. I've said this before. I feel like it's like all over the map this year with the Beyond the Box Score listeners, where we've got some really good ones, some really bad ones. This has just been a crazy year. I feel like obviously it's chaos every year, fantasy football. But there've been a lot of injuries.
This year's certainly been more chaotic, and it's been just like a further extension of the fall off at wide receiver that we saw start to plague us last year, and it's gotten to a real nasty point at receiver.
So AJ Brown, like we've always been able to
rely on that.
Like he's always one of the best receivers, and he's just like nothing. You get nothing from AJ Brown. Like Cortland Sutton, like Mr. Consistent, has basically disappeared. He gets fewer targets than Troy Franklin all of a sudden. Like what's
outside
going on
of Buka, our rookies aren't really breaking out like they have in the past.
Yeah. So I do think Ricky Pearsall is actually a good one to target if you've got stash spots for him. I think there's massive upside with him if this offense is able to get healthy at the end of the year. We've talked about that. I think that was yesterday's show.
Yes.
I also think that Luther Burden would be one of my top targets, basically for any team, but especially a team like this where you don't need him right now.
Okay.
Do you have like, if you were 10-0, would you go after Brian Thomas Jr. or something like that? No.
I would go. I would want more high end. If I'm 10-0, I clearly have a pretty consistent roster, right? So I don't need the Brian Thomas Jr. types. Players who I may not want to start, players who could hurt me if I start them. I'm probably going for players we outlined, like Waddle, Pickens, some of these potential upside plays.
Okay. What about rolling the dice on somebody like Nico Collins? Does that make sense? Like if you could, or Justin Jefferson, like if you can move up from somebody who's playing really well, like Devontae Smith to Justin Jefferson. Or like Nico. Alec Pierce to Nico or something like that. Does that interest you?
It's not a bad swing, right? You're playing for the upside. Nico has finally started to at least at the minimum get like targets we're looking for over the last 2 weeks. 15 last week, 11 the week before, but both were Davis Mills games. Davis Mills is playing this week, but probably won't be the starter past then. Stroud, I don't know how else to say it, has just not been good this year. And somehow Davis Mills is like in some ways outplaying him. I don't even want to use that word, but I don't know what else to say about the situation. But like, I feel like Nico's been also the benefactor of like flukes, right? He had the fluky busted coverage with Stroud for a long touchdown. Last week, like you look at the box score with Nico and you're like, oh, nice. Nico Collins, he's back on track. He's what I drafted him to be. But then you kind of dig further in the box score and you're like, well, 54 of these yards came on a dumb Hail Mary that like is never going to happen week to week. So we have to take that kind of off if we're really thinking about it. So then it's more like a 5 for 87 type game. So I don't know about Nico. I'm not there yet.
Rickolas Cage, trade Josh Jacobs for Bijan? Yep, absolutely. Do you have any Josh Jacobs thoughts? My brother and I were considering trading for Jacobs as like a piece to put a dynasty team over the top for contending, but I actually don't love it. Like the line continues to be banged up. Obviously, he scores a freaking touchdown every single week, but some of the matchups down the stretch aren't great.
Yep.
I think he's pretty much locked in, like as a top 8-10 guy. But he makes me a little bit nervous.
He's locked in as like a back end top 8 to 12 guy, but you have to pay such a higher price because the expectation is still, oh, well, the yards will come. Will they? Elgin Jenkins is now on IR. They can't move the ball really in general on offense, and they don't really utilize him that well in the pass game. So I'm like okay with him if you're looking for like a floor play.
Yeah. Is this a fair trade? T. Higgins and Cortland Sutton for Jackson Smith and Jigba. I would get JSN. It's not a fair trade for whoever you're trading with, but it's a good trade for you.
That person might need some depth. So I like this. Great move, Danny. This is how you play fantasy. This is as good as it gets.
Yeah, love that.
Great move. Snap that up. By the way, if that's on the table or something in your queue, press accept right now. Don't let him get a chance to take it off.
Baba Ganoush, am I crazy for dropping Jordan Mason for Jaden Daniels in a 2 wide receiver 1 super flex? So definitely do that.
You know, you got to do that. I don't know why Jaden Daniels would ever be on the waiver wire in a super flex.
I dropped him out of frustration. It wasn't in a super flex league, and it was also in just a free league that I played with my cousins. But I lost.
Sometimes you need a spike drop. You do need to spike drop at times.
It was like I checked my team, and I can't ever win this league with my cousins, which is so annoying. I always forget to set my lineup and stuff. But like, also, it's like you want to beat them, you know? Like they're all younger than me, and like they know that I do this for work.
Yeah.
And still, like I just have the worst luck. It seems like, and so I go to check my team. And it's like, oh, of course, this team has Tucker Kraft and Jane Daniels and Brian Thomas Jr. and Ricky Pearsall is never coming back. And I just got to go ahead and drop Brandon Ayuk because he's obviously never coming back too.
That's awesome.
And it was like,
I love it.
I'd like,
so you got to do a spike drop sometimes. It makes you feel good. It's like, it's a cathartic experience. My friend Kevin created this in my league. No, it's very necessary. And the key to a spike drop is you do it on like the sun. You do it like so it stands out in your league transaction page when you go to the home page. Like you want it to not after a big set of transactions. You need to be the first one that's there for a day or two. Like, yes, I dropped this player and he deserves to be dropped. And I'm sending a message to my team.
I dropped them all, just like all the injured guys all at once.
Sending a message to
show everybody how unlucky I am.
Yeah, exactly.
Ken wants to know, would you trade away Cortland Sutton for Tez? This is a question for Mr. Tez Johnson.
Look, I am doing it. I know it's crazy, and I am doing it.
Yeah, not for me. I would rather keep Sutton. To me, Sutton is kind of similar to Tedero McMillan discussion that we had earlier, where it's like we know he's a really good player. Maybe things could just change. The way that they've gone over the past month doesn't have to be the way that it will continue to go. I mean, and with him, at least we have proof of concept. We've never really seen it with T-Mac, but we've seen Sutton be really good.
Yeah,
like with this coach, with this quarterback.
You're right. I got to come around to being a little more open to the idea of Sutton giving us some stuff down the stretch. So maybe that's a little too much.
Mr. Popensky, did Dan take his dynasty magnets off the fridge out of shame?
To some extent, shame is probably not the correct term to use, but I had him up until I was undefeated, and I went 8-0. And then finally lost to go to 8-1. I think I ended up winning this week, but I had a tough matchup. I might have not even won. I mean, regardless, I'm literally like, I've changed my team name from Dominant Dan Schneier, which was braggadocious and ridiculous and really not nice to anybody involved. But I did change it to, and I did win last week. So now I'm 9-1. I forget. I'm going to read it off to you for a second here, Jacob. We drafted this. I don't like to do this because people really take this the wrong way, even though I'm doing this 1,000% out of in jest and just for fun. But I come off really poorly when I do this, and so I just when
you love to do this. I'm sorry.
I may love to do this, but it is mostly in jest to some extent, or at least I can use that as like a shield for myself. But
Let's
I had
hear
changed
it.
my team name to Best Startup Draft Ever. We did this startup draft. Yeah, it didn't mean it is. We did this startup draft 2 to 3 years ago. Josh Allen, who I got in the first round, was super flex. On the turn, I came back and got Jahmyr Gibbs and Breece Hall. Then somehow, some way, I was able to also draft Jackson Smith and Jigba. That must have been, I guess, round 4.
Yeah.
James Cook, I look back, was round 8 at the time. He wasn't like big yet. Zay Flowers, Cortland Sutton. These were all players I drafted, by the way. Travis Kelce, who's not so good anymore, but I did draft him. Brian Thomas Jr., who I got the year after in the rookie draft. I traded my number 1 overall pick last year when it was the Caleb Williams draft for Jalen Hurts, and I gave like another 1 and a second or something to like win now with Hurts. So I got Jalen Hurts on this team too.
Wow.
I even drafted in like round 8 at the time, or no, it must have been round 9, Daniel Jones, who's like now somehow a good dynasty guy to have in a super flex league. So I just can't imagine a better startup draft than this. And with that said, I feel really terrible about how bad that sounded.
Ethan says that name is 100% deserved.
Thank you, Ethan.
Craig Stokes loves the show, misses the nose strip, wants to know, would we prefer...
Maybe it's time to re-debut the nose strip.
Would you prefer Derrick Henry, Quinshon Judkins, or Ladd in a PPR keeper league? I'm wondering if this is the same guy, just framing the question a little bit differently for us. They need one player to go all in on. So I guess costs not considered.
Henry.
In a PPR, you choosing Henry?
Yeah, the schedule is so nice down the stretch.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah, it's close between him and Ladd. It's definitely not Judkins, I don't think, for Dan or me.
Guy Will Gamble says deviated, Dan. He's correct, man. This is one of the worst deviated septums you'll ever find. I don't know how to fix it. Am I going to get the surgery, Jacob? It's so invasive. Can't do it in season. All right. Anyway, let's move back to the show.
David Barnes says Dart got dropped in their league. Is that a no-brainer pickup for you, at least to keep him away from other managers?
The guy with the 3rd most fantasy points per game since he debuted, and that was before last week where he ran for 2 touchdowns against the Bears, so he's probably even higher. Yeah, you better pick him up.
Ethan asked me a couple days ago if he's crazy for thinking Dart's basically QB1 rest of season. This is,
that's crazy,
right? And it was right amid like the games where he had just scored a 2nd rushing touchdown. He looks great, and so we're fired up, we're juiced up, we're enjoying the Dart days. But
I do worry, though.
I don't think he's going to run as much, man.
That's what I was going to say. I do worry that this injury is the turning point in how often they call design runs for him.
Yeah, to me, it's like
problem.
My guess is, and this is just speculation, but it's like, aren't you just saying like no more of this? Like we got rid of.
Who's saying that is the question. Like
I
it
don't
would have to come down from ownership or the general manager, because I know Mike Kafka, who's been calling the plays and now he's their head coach, is gonna want to do it. Like it's one of their best versions of offense. They're just having they ran Bash 3 times last week for Jackson Dart. The Bears saw it on tape already once and it killed them. All 3 times the Bears were like wholly unprepared to defend Bash. And it's just like, all right, well, like, why would we stop running? This is our best chance to create some offense right now in the red zone.
To me, it's felt like Dayball's doing this to save his job or whatever, but that could just not be the right read.
I don't think so, because Kafka's calling the plays, but I do think that this is the turning point. He gets injured finally and ownership steps down. They're like, all right.
Yeah, and it's a concussion too, like it feels like so many things line up for them to be like, okay, let's not get crazy here.
And with that said, I still think he's going to be really good for fantasy down the stretch. We're talking about a guy who has the 3rd highest big time throw percentage behind Drake May and Sam Darnold.
Yeah, he's been a stud, but I mean, like Darnold hasn't been that great for fantasy, even though he's been insane.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I think basically if you aren't going to run, we'll just see. We don't know.
No, that's true. If you're not going to, but he's still going to run. Like it's in his nature.
It is.
Not many designed runs.
Yeah. I don't know if you can take the dog out of Dart.
Right.
Who do we feel better rest of season, Sutton or JMO? Deciding which to trade away. Sutton feels so low in value after the last few weeks, though.
It's JMO for me. Again, I could be burned by this, but we got 1 week sample size of Dan Campbell calling the Lions offense, and we got exactly what JMO could help them do right now, which is not just run verts and deep posts and deep in breaker dig routes. It's actual mesh type concepts, running crossing routes and short overs over the middle, clear out space with your 2-route concepts with Khalif Raymond and Amon-Ra St. Brown, and give this man some space to work with after the catch because he's a really good player. He almost broke one, by the way. He had one of those open routes that like he caught JMO, took toward the sideline and was like literally, I watched it back on film a few times, a few inches in the angle away from just housing that thing.
I just checked my rankings because we've adjusted them as we go along here. And funny enough, I ended up with those two back to back. So I do have Sutton at wide receiver 24 and Jameson Williams at wide receiver 25. But you can see that he moved up a lot. So for me, I think the way I would play it is like whatever you're trying to trade, if you're able to like be in negotiations with the person, like whoever they prefer. If you find somebody who prefers Jameson Williams, I'm totally fine trading him away. Because if I had to place a bet, it would be on Sutton.
Okay, no, I'm going to place the bet on JMO. I'm going to place the bet.
But if you can get more for JMO,
okay,
are you fine sending him? Or do you just want to hold him and see what happens?
I don't want to hold him, man. Like we don't have that many players left who are A, in an offense that we believe in every week with a play caller just stepped in and started using the player, and B, have that ability to house a play. You know, kind of like that Professor House Dillon's burger that one time. You know what I'm talking about? Like that thing was gone in a second, just like Jameson Williams when he gets the ball in his hands.
So good. All right. I think we're going to end on that. What a show.
Thank you so much to the listeners. Really appreciate the comments. And it was fun to get you involved with questions. Yeah, I think we have to do this now every show. Get the YouTube call questions involved early and often. Thank you for those of you who left a review and a rating on Spotify. We answered some of those questions. You really helped us from that sense. Yeah, as Angus McKay says, give me that. I use that a lot in my regular life. So thank you. And please do us a favor, hit the like button right now if you haven't already. Please, look, if you've gotten this far and you haven't hit like, I got a lot of questions for you. I really do. But please hit the like button. Other than that, have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.